Hey guys, we are at the one-of-a-kind antique mall today, and myself, Prime, and Sugarberry.
Hi!
We are here today to check out some cool vintage toys. Hey everyone, I have returned. I'm Prime, and you're watching the Prime Geek. And you're wondering, like, oh, the Prime Geek, this is new. Well, it is. This is a new channel, and I was previously on a channel called Sugarberry and Prime by myself and also my wife, who is Sugarberry. And we decided to do separate channels now because we want to focus more on our primary interests. So Sugarberry is more the girls' toys. I'm doing more of the guys' toys, on vintage toys that is, mostly. But there's a couple other topics that I might talk about in different videos, but primarily be vintage toys. So I could be talking about comics, movies, toy repair. I might also do a surprise topic. It'll be in sci-fi, and I might actually ask you guys what type of topics you'd like me to do. And then I also will be reposting all my old videos from Sugarberry and Prime on this channel once every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. And then on Fridays, when I come out with a new video, it'll come out on a Friday. So since I've been away, I've focused on a bit of things in my personal life, job hunting, searching. I had a couple of opportunities. They didn't work out, but that's okay because I have another job besides work doing YouTube, and it's doing quite well, and I'm happy with where I am at. And just focusing on health-wise and collecting more toys and conventions, cosplay, and yeah. So if you've been following in the past on when we were doing the Sugarberry and Prime channel, now that's Sugarberry Sparkles. Sugarberry and myself, Prime, we like to collect, and we've been to this antique mall in Woodstock for, I guess this is like the third time we've been there, and it's 3 floors of different items, mainly antiques, or at least 20 years old. There are items that are newer as well. There's multiple different vendors, and we just have fun going there. This was filmed on April. Yeah, March. March 13th. So the first toy that I got from the antique mall, I've been really wanting him for quite a while, from Hasbro, from 1993, from the Transformers Generation 2. I would love the Generation 1 version of him, but this is Generation 2, Megatron! So a little bit about Megatron and the Transformers Generation 2. A lot of people are familiar with Generation 1, Beast Wars, and the newer stuff too. Generation 2 actually started in the 90s. So a little bit about this toy series that this Megatron is a part of. Generation 2 was no real cartoon show to market the toys. They did have a Transformer Generation 2 show, but it used what was called the cybernetic space cube to retell a lot of the G1 episodes from the G1 cartoon. So there was no actual G2 story, but in the comics there was a series that in North America that they had, and it takes place after the Generation 1 was over. And by that time, well, let's track back for a second. In Generation 1, Megatron, in the animated movie in 1986, he was remade by the planet-eating transformer Unicron into Galvatron. I did do a video on Galvatron, which actually should be coming up soon on one of the Tuesdays. So in the lore, Galvatron, he survived the Generation 1 cartoon, but in the Transformers Headmasters, which in Japan, they continued the story, which season 4 kind of got canceled, but he was buried in ice. In the comics, he was no longer around either. So in the Generation 2 comic book, at that time Hasbro had the Transformers crossover with their other toy line, G.I. Joe. And they had Cobra remake Megatron, and this is what we got. So it's not exactly the same Megatron, but he is the Megatron of the Decepticons for Generation 2. There's a couple of reasons why they decided to make Megatron a tank and not a gun like in the original G1. First of all, they wanted to make a new toy instead of just doing repaints and re-releases like some of the other toys in the G2. Megatron was the first brand new toy in Generation 2. So they decided to go with a tank because in America, there was more laws about gun violence. Instead of doing a gun, they decided to do a tank. Tanks just seem to be more allowed than like a regular handgun, right? So they decided to go with the tank instead. Now Megatron has shown up in other vintage cartoons in the 90s, not in North America, but in Japan. When Beast Wars ran, and then they had a couple other series come out, Beast Wars 2 and Beast Wars Neo. And in Beast Wars Neo, they decided to bring back Galvatron. They decided to connect it to the Headmasters Japanese anime back in the late 80s, early 90s. And in the Headmasters, Galvatron was buried in ice, and then you never see him at all. So in the Beast Wars Neo, which was different than the Transformers Generation 2 of North America, and they decided to bring back the Generation 2 toy of Megatron, but in the show, they made him the younger brother of Galvatron, and they called him Megastorm. A little bit about this toy, Megatron G2, my version. He came with everything that you see here. The only thing that he didn't come with, that the original toy came with, was a secondary gun that would go into his hand. It didn't come with it in the antique mall. He has all his missiles that loads up into here. So if I open it up, you probably can't see it from there, but if I lift it that way, maybe you can see it. I'm not sure, but we'll get to that later. But basically, it comes with the missiles, and you can actually launch the missiles. I'll show you when I transform him. He's in pretty good shape. Though when I first got him, when I transformed him, because he was in tank mode, when I transformed him, his head got stuck. So I had to get his head out. So when I transform him, hopefully he doesn't do that again. But besides that, he comes with everything. He also has sound. So I put some batteries in him, and the sound actually still works. So there's 3 different ways that he has sound. One, when he transforms into tank, you can hear like a tank mode. I will show that to you when I transform Megatron. But if you press down his head, he says Megatron attack. And then if you pull back this lever here, it will make a noise, which I'll show you when I transform him. It just makes it a bit easier for you to see and everything. So I'm going to zoom in and so you can see it there. But yeah, overall he's pretty good shape for being from 1993. I'm pretty happy on this this buy. Now, when this toy first came out in 1993, there was actually 2 releases of Megatron. There was this one, and then there was also a blue one for G2, which you can see on the screen. I do like this one better, just because, well, his gun is a bit different, but I mean, that's the classic G2 Megatron, and I mean, he's a green tank, right? Blue tanks doesn't really make too much of sense, right? But I mean, in G2, they always had very bright colors to begin with, and they did something different, right? So yeah, still happy. So when looking on eBay, the cheapest I could find him was $16.70 US. That's no box, no accessories, just him. And the most expensive I could find him on eBay was about $125 or $124.95 US. And that's in the box, everything. And now let's transform him. So now to transform Megatron G2. So if we turn him around, you can see his big gun here. On the sticker on this side, it says here, "Eat this, Autobots." And then on this side, it says the big stick, his gun. So to transform Megatron, before we do, I just want to show you some of the functionality in robot mode of his missiles and his sound effects. So if you push down his head, like I mentioned before, you can hear him say Megatron attack.
Megatron attack.
Once again.
Megatron attack.
That's addictive. I know. And then if you move him around like this, you can pull his trigger back here, and it makes a sound effects. And then if you lift this part up, you can load all of the missiles in here. So I'll put that back down, and then this button right here, if I press it, I'll move him back a little, he'll shoot out a missile. So first thing is, if you flip him down like this, his little feet right here need to go in like that and like that. And then we'll flip him around. And if you look at the back of his legs, there's these parts here. You just want to flip it up like that, and then flip this part up as well. So after you've moved the back part of his legs out, then you want to grab the front part and then move it up like that. Move him around, and then move his leg up. Move this up a little so you can move it down like that. And then do the same with the other one. And then flip them around, and then move the part that we took out, move them back in like that, and then move it up to like that. And then so you're almost there, right? So you're moving Megatron's head down, And you'll say Megatron attack again. And then you're going to move the gun, slide it over. Something like that. He likes to mention that he likes to attack. You want to turn the hand down and then move the arm up like this. Oh yeah, that arm will make a noise. Move the hand down like that, and then you want to turn it. You want to move it up. Like that. Make sure you want to snap it in. And then do the same on this side as well. So move the hand down, turn it around, move it up like this, and then up, and so it creates the part of the tank where people jump in and, you know, shoot. Make sure it snaps in like that.
From planet Cybertron comes Optimus Prime's greatest challenge. Megatron, the evil Decepticon leader, crushes Prime with power sound treads. Transforming from battle tank to deadly robot with power arm lasers and lock and load super sound cannon. Megatron can blast Prime into spare parts. Listen to the voice of doom. Transformers Generation 2. Megatron is all you see here. Optimus Prime sold separately.
Next toy coming from the Transformers Generation 1, Series 2, 1985 by Hasbro, Cosmos. And Cosmos transforms into a flying saucer, a UFO. He loves space exploration, and if he could just fly around in outer space and explore new life on other planets. And he's kind of like a scientist as well. Well, not like some of the other characters like Perceptor, who is a microscope, but he likes to help out where he can. He's more for exploring the universe, basically. And every time that he was on the show, he was in outer space, unless they need him to come to Earth. But most of the time, like all the fighting between the Autobots and Decepticons on Earth, he wasn't really involved. Only when it came to space, that's when he was involved in the show. In the show, he is a bit smaller too, but he's big enough to house some of the Autobots there. Not as big as some of the other guys, but he's definitely bigger than the toy, because he's like the same size as Bumblebee in toy. So, yeah. A little bit about this toy. He has no accessories. He comes just like this. And so he's not missing anything. His head is a little loose. Now it's up. It's been down a bit earlier in this video, but yeah, his head's a little bit loose, but you can still transform him. Yeah, has a little cleaning up to do on his symbol on his feet there for the Autobot symbol. Oh, my finger's in the way. Sorry about that. The Autobot symbol on his feet. You probably can't see it, but I'll show you a bit more when you transform him. And there was no other re-releases of Cosmos, but in 1986, and only in the country of Greece, there was a re-release of Cosmos. They gave him a brighter paint job, so the green is a lot more brighter green. And his name is Karakos in the Greece market, and it was released by El Greco. When looking on eBay, the cheapest I could find him, he was going for $11.99 US, just like this, no box. And the most expensive I could find him, just like this, was $44.95 US. But if you wanted him sealed in the box, the most expensive one I could find on eBay was $550 US. Okay, now let's transform him. Okay, so we have Cosmos. To transform him is pretty simple. We want to move his feet down like that, and then move his legs up like that, and then move his arms like that. Move the other arm down. Make sure his head's down, which it is, and voila! He's transformed.
We're too late, Cosmos. We missed the whole ceremony.
I wanted to see our Auto buddies start up the new energy unit.
And the next toy, coming from the year 1985, from Series 2 of the Transformers Generation 1 by Hasbro, Bombshell. And Bombshell is from the Insecticons, and He is, oh, his chest is coming out there. It's a bit loose, but he is one of the members of the Insecticons, and the Insecticons actually have been on Earth in the G1 series longer than the Decepticons were. Bombshell is known for basically manipulating other Transformers. If he shoots this device on you, he can basically control your mind. And the Insecticons, I'm not sure if it was him or all the Insecticons, but they can clone themselves. And so, like regular insects, there can be an infestation. So he transforms into a robotic beetle, which I'll show you when I transform him. So in 1986, when they released the Transformers animated movie, he was in it not that long when Megatron was pretty much almost dead and the Decepticons were in outer space. They threw out a bunch of Decepticons that they wanted to get rid of because they're pretty much, well, dead, including Megatron, and Bombshell was one of them. And when he was thrown out with Megatron and some of the other Decepticons, they came in contact with Unicron, and Unicron recreated a bunch of them, and he was recreated into the Transformer Cylonus. Fun fact, not a vintage fun fact, but a fun fact about the character. In more recent times, I think in the year 2020, Hasbro decided to release a comic book crossover series. Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, I gotta say. They crossed over Transformers with My Little Pony. Yeah, I know, right? So in the comics, they had what's called a space bridge. And if you aren't familiar with the Transformer lore, the space bridge allows a Transformer to transport between Earth and Cybertron very quickly. I think later on they used space bridges for other worlds too, but mainly it was between Earth and Cybertron. So in the comic, the space bridge malfunctioned, and the Insecticons were one of many Transformers that went to the planet. For all the My Little Pony fans out there, I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong. Equestria, something like that. Equestria, I can't pronounce it. If you know, comment below. Anyway, so they landed on the My Little Pony's planet, and they decided to attack the Sweet Apple's acre farm, and that horrified the character Applejack from My Little Pony. And eventually, they were able to get rid of the Insecticons from attacking their orchard of apples on their farm. I believe it was from G5 of My Little Pony. Apparently in the show or in the comics, the spirit of chaos, and his name was Discord. Apparently he helped get rid of the Insecticons. So when Bombshell first came out, he pretty much came like this, and he also had a metal gun. This toy here, he's not in the greatest shape, but because his chest comes out, right? So it's kind of loose there. But besides that, he's good for display. He has some paint rub on the back here. So if you wanted to purchase him on eBay, just like this, range from the low of $3.99 US up to $95 US with the manual. So I was also curious to see how much he was going for sealed in the box, the most expensive. And the highest I could find him for price wise was $995 US. Oh, wow. Now, let's transform him. So the first thing you want to do is move the legs up like that, and then flip them over and move this part here up like that, and then move his arms up like that, and then the other one up like that, and then flip him over, and you have him in bug mode.
Oh, look!
What is it?
It's the Insecticons, an evil new menace from the world of the Transformers.
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers, robots in disguise.
Transformers from Hasbro.
The next toy coming from the year 2003. Yes, it's still vintage. It's still under 20 years old. From Mattel, from the Justice League, Batman Mega Armor. So this version of Batman Mega Armor, this costume did not show up in the show. It was just for toys. I don't have all of the armor that he came with. You can see what he came with here. He's missing some latches. Like there's some latches here, which I believe is like a bat wings that would connect to the back here. Yeah, so I mean, he's not complete at all. It was a good deal. When looking on eBay, the cheapest I could find him was about $3.99 US, and the most expensive I can find him was $14.99 US. And if you wanted to get him in the box complete with all of his accessories, his armor, you could get him between $20 and $25 US. So this next toy is from a toy lot of the same series, mostly the same series, as one of them is actually from another series that is basically almost identical but different. So I'll talk about that. This next toy is Superman from 1984 from the Superpowers toy line, and he's from the basic or first series by Kenner. So in the 1980s, there was a show called Super Friends, and it was basically the Justice League of the 80s, and it was very popular back in the 80s. And so the toys were to promote the show. And so basically in this Superpowers toy line, every character, if you squeeze their legs, they have arm action moving up and down. You can see, he can't do that. He can move his arms a little bit, but he's supposed to like move his arms all the way up as if he was punching or flying. I don't have his cape, but I mean, Superman isn't Superman without his cape. So I have a Superman cape. This is from a different Superman from the 90s, but if I put it on him, it kind of works, right? There was another series of DC toys that came out in 1989 called DC Comics Superheroes, and they were produced by Toy Biz. I think it was one of the few toy lines that Toy Biz did that wasn't Marvel. They looked almost identical to the Superpowers toy line from 1984. There was some differences, and I actually have the one from 1989. This is Superpowers Superman from 1984, and this Superman is from the DC Comics Superheroes from 1989 by Toy Biz. You look at them both, they're pretty identical. The Superheroes one from 1989, the color of his costume is not as bright as the Superpowers. Now it could be from age, I'm not sure. But he also came with a green kryptonite ring. I don't know where that is, and well, his leg is broken, but he came with a kryptonite ring, and this one did not. And if you try to squeeze his legs, nothing happens. That's the difference pretty much. They look almost identical. So if you were to buy this Superman, the Superpowers Superman from 1984, out of box, he would be ranging on eBay between $6 and $175 US. And if you wanted him sealed, the most expensive you could find on eBay that I could find was $1,900 US, and that was sealed with the CAS seal of approval. Now the CAS is the Collectors Archive Service, similar to the AFA, which is the AFA is the Action Figure Authority.
All of the Superpowers collection. Superpowers figures with power action, each sold separately.
There's no power to build. Squeeze them, they've got power action like Superman and Batman. Here comes Hawkman. Watch out for Brainiac's power action. And each comes with a mini comic.
The Superpowers collection, Superman, Batman, Brainiac, Hawkman, and other figures with power action, each sold separately, new from Kenner.
The next toy coming from the year 1989 from DC Comics Superheroes from Toy Biz, Mr. Freeze. And yes, he looks like Lex Luthor, but I can promise you he's Mr. Freeze. So, as like I was saying with Superman, he was a carbon copy of the superpowers Mr. Freeze. When he came out, originally it was 1986. This one is the 1989. So he doesn't have arm moving action if you squeeze his legs. So he's actually in better shape now. He is missing his armor and his glass that goes over top to keep him from, well, dying. Because he needs the cold. Mr. Freeze. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Mr. Freeze, but if you aren't, Mr. Freeze had a lab experiment and it went wrong, and the suit helps him stay alive because he needs the cold elements for his body. And in the show, back in the 80s, he didn't really have a secret identity, but his nickname was the Frozen Felon, which the Superheroes toy line in 1989 was a carbon copy pretty much of the 1986 version, other than he can't move his arms up and down. A little bit about this toy. Like I said, he's missing all of his accessories. He didn't actually come with a frozen gun like in newer Batman lore and toys, but they're broken off. But if you can see, there's a red dot there and then one there. They're broken off, but that's supposed to be is frozen gas he would shoot at instead of a frozen gun like in modern day. So when looking on eBay, the cheapest I could find him was around $5 US, no accessories. But the highest I could find him without the box, but he has his accessories, was going for just a little bit less than $160 US, and still brand new, sealed in the package. The most expensive I could find with the AFA seal of approval was about $1,500 US.
Wow. My super strength will stop your power punch, Lex Luthor, but it can't stop Mr. Freeze and the kryptonite brain. Let Robin shut things down to size.
Not even Penguin can defeat the powers of the superheroes. Action figures each sold separately from Toy Biz.
The next toy in the same haul at the Antique Mall was Lex Luthor by Kenner from the Superpowers toy line in the Basic Series in 1984. And yes, this was, like I said, the Superpowers toy line, not the Superheroes toy line from 1989. So he does have the chopping motion. This one doesn't work anymore. His legs are loose, and if you move his hands, you can tell he's doing the chopping. It just doesn't work anymore. What is there to talk about Lex Luthor? Well, everybody knows that he is Superman's arch nemesis over all the Superman movies and shows, and he was the leader of the group of villains called the Legion of Doom. He's Superman's arch nemesis. And this is the kryptonite suit version of Lex Luthor. The kryptonite suit allows him to fight Superman and make him basically an equal, because he can weaken him with green kryptonite. He can shoot out of his armor. His armor is missing from the toy, which originally came with him if you would have bought him back in 1984. And when looking on eBay, just like this, or at least not in the box, the cheapest I could find him was about $4.99 US, up until about $82 US. And the most expensive I saw him with him being sealed in the box, and he had the AFA seal of approval, was just about $1,000. Wow.
The Legion of Doom. It is the purpose of the Legion to align our infamous forces against the powers of good and defeat them, leaving us, the rulers of the world.
And the next toy, coming from the year, once again, from 1984 by Kenner in the Basic Series of the Superpowers toy line, Joker. Now, Joker, like the other, oops, like the other figures I talked about from the Superpower toy line, you squeeze his legs, he's supposed to have an arm action move. He originally came with a, well, he keeps falling over. He came with a mallet, and when you squeeze his legs, he's supposed to move his hand up and down with the mallet. So he's like doing a mallet action, but that doesn't work anymore. And well, Joker is Joker. There's not much to talk about. I mean, he's been Batman's arch nemesis since Joker was created in the comics. Joker is well known in media today. When they think of Batman, they think of the Joker, right? He's his arch nemesis. Yeah, his toy has seen better days. Besides the leg arm action, you look at the thighs, they're kind of faded out. And then look at the bottom part of the leg, they're more brighter. And then the paint on his hair has kind of faded a bit too. I'm not sure you can see that. There's a bit of white in there as well. When looking on eBay, he was about the same price as the previous toy I talked about. The lowest I could find was around $4 US, and the highest is around $82-85 with no box. If you wanted to get him sealed, the most expensive I could find him on eBay was also around $1,000 with the AFA seal of approval.
Now let's get the funny money and make our lives sunny.
The next toy from that bunch was from 1989 from Toy Biz, from the DC Superheroes toy line, the Riddler. So, the Riddler. The Riddler has been a villain of Batman for a long time. I have done a video on the Riddler and Batman, which I'll release later on this year on this channel again. But he loves puzzling Batman. He is all about puzzles and riddles. All he wants to do is, well, basically give Batman a headache. And this toy, he's a bit faded. Some of the different question marks on his leg are faded. But one thing was unique about this Riddler. He did not have a previous version of him from the Superpowers toy line in 1984. Other than one country, Argentina, had a special release of the Riddler in 1984, and he was known for his legs being a different shade of green than the rest of his body. So that's interesting, and he's a collector's item. They're both collector's items, but the one from Argentina from 1984 is definitely a collector's item, which is hard to find because of the scarcity of the toy, right? With different collectors looking for unique toys that you can't find anywhere else. The Argentina version of the Riddler from Superpowers falls into that category. And yeah, it's pretty cool. So if you were to look on eBay for this version of the Riddler, I found them prices anywhere between $5 to $26 US, and sealed in the package was around $175 US. Now, compare that to the Argentina version from 1984. I have found two, one in American dollars and one in Australian dollars. And the one in American was going for $625 US, and the one from Australia was going for $1,700 Australian.
Para ayudar a los super amigos llega el dúo dinámico en la lucha contra el mal.
Te esperamos, Batman.
Gracias, Robin.
Tu super golpe, Superman.
Para terminar la batalla, Superman, Batman, Robin y los super amigos contra los archienemigos. ¿Quién ganará? Vos decidís. Playful, el principio de todos los juegos.
And the last toy coming between the years 1978 and 1981, according to the tag on the toy, from the United Feature Syndicate, Garfield. Now, Garfield, I love Garfield. Growing up as a kid, I loved watching the cartoons from the 80s and 90s. And if you picked up a newspaper back in the day, who would you see in the comics amongst other comics? Garfield. Now this guy, he's in perfect shape. For being from the late 70s, early 80s, he's in amazing shape. There's no wear and tear on Garfield at all. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, I remember Garfield as the cat that always ate lasagna. Jon Arbuckle was his master. And he's known for always eating his food, and then the dog Odie, he's always known for kicking him off the table. And he's known for sleeping all the time. And one of my favorite Christmas specials is actually Garfield's Christmas special. And I watch it like every year amongst other Christmas specials. I have that on VHS. Yes, I still have a VCR, but I also play everything else too, right? Now, finding him on eBay, pretty hard to find this exact one. There are multiple vintage plush Garfields, but there was a similar one that had a soup bowl on his head, but it wasn't made by the same company that made this Garfield. The company that made that Garfield was Dakin. So further investigation, see if I could find the same Garfield online on eBay. I did find one, and I confirmed it was the same one. This one is actually in better shape than the one I saw on eBay. So the one that was on eBay that I found, it was going for about 20 Great British pounds compared to the Dakin version with the soup bowl on his head. It was going for over 100 Canadian dollars.
Ladies and gentlemen, kicking Odie off the table. Thank you. Thanks, buddy.
Well, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you for joining in my experience of going through the one-of-a-kind antique mall in Woodstock, Ontario. It was such a blast, and it's such a great time coming back on YouTube. I hope you enjoy the channel. Just remember, once every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, I have one of my vintage videos coming out, and then my new videos are coming out on Friday. If you're not familiar with my previous videos from the last year or so, I have new logos. And if you notice on this video, I have the logo for the Prime Geek, me, of Optimus Prime with sunglasses. And the vintage videos actually show like a red and blue robot, not Optimus Prime. Always go on to the vintage videos. So until then, I hope you enjoy your vintage toy hauls, and that's just Prime.